And now it's time to recognize a group of baseball people that very seldom receive credit for a job well done. This group being the umpires of the American and National League. I'm serious when I say their integrity and honesty is and must be beyond reproach. They accept the players and managers' ire, and they never let it affect their next call. Now, counting balls and strikes and close plays on the bases, they must have made over 1 million calls while I was managing, and except for those 92 times I disagreed, they got the other ones right.
Surprising there in the Hall of Fame induction speech for Earl Weaver. The managers used to get after it with the managers, obviously. The book is The Last Manager, How Earl Weaver Tricked, Tormented, and Reinvented Baseball. The author is John W. Miller, and he joins us now. John, it's Brian Kenny. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Brian. Great to see you. Great to be here.
When you're conceiving of writing a baseball book, right, this is a well-known guy, obviously. It's been a few years since we talked to Earl Weaver. What was the impetus behind picking Earl Weaver as a subject?
So he's one of the most figures in baseball history. He's the manager who came up with the use of data in the dugout, using analytics, if you will, in the 1960s. He was also the first manager to use a radar gun. So he was so revolutionary in how he managed, but then also one of baseball's great characters. Very funny, as the clip you just showed illustrates. A great showman in a way that we've lost today. I tell younger baseball fans, kind of like Hulk Hogan in professional wrestling. I mean, one writer said he was like Vegas playing, like Elvis playing Vegas when he would go out and the whole stadium would rise to their feet. And he was just such a showman, such a great character. And there had never been a proper biography of him looking at his legacy and where he came from.
Yeah, you get into that. And, I didn't know this. Early analytics, if that's what you want to call it, was stoked by an uncle who was a bookie. Bookies worked the probabilities even back then. Tell us about that.
So I was born in 1930 in St. Louis in a world of crowded streets, taverns, corner stores, bars, bookies. His uncle Bud was a bookie, would take Earl to Sportsman's Park. Sportsman's Park had both the Cardinals and the Browns. So every day between April and September, there was a Major League Baseball game for little Earl Weaver to attend with his uncle, and they would take prop bets like today on pitch counts, on runs per inning, on anything you can think of you could bet on. And the bookies roamed the right field grandstand, and there were betting guides I found from the 40s that are kind of proto-analytics that talk about pitcher-batter matchup data and how to collect it. And so Earl was saturated in this baseball, but also analyzing baseball. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where a lot of his ideas came from.
That's fascinating. Again, you mentioned like in the 1950s, like you could find this stuff if you were looking for it. Obviously before the sabermetric revolution, before Bill James, but there is like, again, probabilities, betting guides. You said a lot of this would be in Esquire or Playboy magazine, kind of these, you have a betting guide there, kind of the, men's magazines, but this stuff was there. He sought that out.
Yeah, so there's a piece from Esquire from 1956 where they talk about how for a pitcher, you should not look at wins and losses. You should look at walks per strikeout or strikeouts per walk, which is exactly how we analyze pitching today. And so all these ideas were kind of out there, and Earl had mentors in the minor leagues who like to keep data on pitcher-batter matchups. And so he took all that with him when he got to the majors. He integrated it. Earl did not go to college. He was not a formal mathematician, if you will, but he had a street hustler's intelligence, a street hustler's wit, a street hustler's sense of humor, too.
Interesting. I've always wondered, looking back, like those fantastic 1970s Orioles teams, and we have their records to look at there. And they were in 3 straight World Series. They lost 2 of them, 1 in 7 games. They lost to the Miracle Mets, but they won 1 of them. Again, won 108 games in the middle of that. But what they had was this, incredible, dedicated fielding team. We saw a little shot there of Brooks Robinson, Mark Belanger, Paul Blair in center field, even Davey Johnson at second base. Was that just who he had, or was that Earl Weaver seeing that as a competitive advantage?
I think it was both. I mean, he famously said Belanger could bat 0 and he would still play him because he was so good. So part of Earl's prophetic genius was valuing fielding in a proper way and realizing that a guy who couldn't hit could still be really valuable if he was a great fielder. And his teams won 28 individual Gold Gloves. He managed 3 of the top 4 defenders by defensive WAR of all time, who are Cal Ripken, Brooks Robinson, and Mark Belanger. And he was obsessed with fielding. And Paul Blair said in spring training they didn't hit. He didn't have calluses on his hands from hitting because they would just practice defense all the time. And really the home runs, and people talk about pitching defense and 3-run homers. The home runs kind of came later when he had those teams in the Eddie Murray, Lee May in the late 70s, early 80s. Right. But really Earl Weaver's philosophy was pitching and defense. Last team with 420 game winners, throw the ball over the plate, make plays. That was his philosophy. Right. And then later when he had the power, he saw the power of draw the base on balls and then hit for power. That's what won, and that's what carries over to this day. How do you deal with, again, you did meticulous research on this, that, again, like a lot of those guys, these are rough guys in a competitive environment. They're not choir boys, right? How do you write and reconcile that with Earl Weaver? Well, Earl Weaver himself was not a choir boy, and part of the great drama of his personality was that he was a functional alcoholic, and he would pass out in the hotels and the clubhouse sometimes even, and he was so messy, but also such a great leader, which is such a paradox. But I think we should wrestle with that. And he was tough on his players. He didn't really speak to them. They weren't friends. He didn't make promises, but he didn't lie to people. He didn't backstab people in the media. He had the kind of integrity to his roughness. So he was coarse, he was crude, the kind of integrity that was endearing to people. And after they retired, every player who played for him was grateful to him for pushing them to be the best player they could, because Earl cared about winning. He didn't care about clubhouse politics. He didn't care about looking good in the media. He cared about winning, and players respected that integrity. So for all the tumult, for all the drama, famously with Jim Palmer, they fought all the time. The winning was always there, and that's what kept Earl Weaver around.
How do you look at managers these days as compared to like back when these were giants among men, right? There was less baseball ops, so there was more focus on the manager himself, and there's some excellent tacticians out there right now. But how different do you view them after doing the research on Weaver?
A lot differently. I mean, the book's called The Last Manager because he symbolizes the era when managers were big stars, cultural celebrities who were known among even non-baseball fans in America. People like Billy Martin, Sparky Anderson, Earl Weaver were stars. People go to the ballpark to watch these men manage, to watch them get thrown out, to watch them make decisions. Teams thought if you hired a great manager that would buy you the pennant. Nobody thinks that anymore. Today, managers are more like middle managers, more like CEOs. Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, told me in the old days, the manager would say it's my team. Now you say it's our team, because they travel with 75 to 80 people, trainers, therapists. They have to deal with agents. It's a very different world, and they're not like dictators like they used to be in the days of Earl Weaver and Billy Martin.
Well, it's a fascinating book. Again, The Last Manager, Earl Weaver, John W. Miller joining us here. I've enjoyed what I've read so far. I'm getting great reviews from the people in the baseball industry. John, well done, and best of luck with the book. Thanks for joining us.
The Seattle Mariners is the AL Player of the Week, presented by Chevrolet.
Congrats, brother. Congrats.
What do you get for that? You still get to watch? Do you get a watch for that, Dylan?
I have no idea. No, it's my first time.
Be on the lookout for a watch that you'll never wear.
You want it? You want it?
How did you find out, Dylan? Who told you that you won?
This is a good story.
I was out and about, and Ty France, who had won it in the previous week, he texted me and he said, "Congrats."
Teammate.
I said, "For what?" And he said, "You won it." And I said, "That's great."
Yeah. You mentioned that this is the first time in your career that you've won Player of the Week honors. What was it about this week? What's been working for you well, particularly at the plate?
Yeah, I had a good week of seeing the baseball, 2 feet in the ground, being able to take good swings. I was probably a little bit more aggressive than years past, just trying to put everything together that I've learned over my career, and it worked last week for sure.
Is that a concerted effort to be more aggressive, and what does that look like when you're working on your approach?
Yeah, I just think that in the past I've probably been a little bit too passive, trying to not necessarily look for the walk, but just making sure I'm not chasing, not playing every day. Trying to see some pitches, whatever it is. But being more aggressive definitely worked last week, and I like where my swing's at. And when you're feeling good, you like where your swing's at. You want to get as many swings as possible off.
Take me through, I'm looking at your bio, 7th round pick, grinded out utility. I kind of similar to what I was like. So I'm like, you're starting to figure this out. I mean, the goal is still to be an everyday guy. I know that, but do you feel like confidence-wise, you're starting to figure out, like, hey, man, I can put up some numbers like 20-plus bombs and do some things if given the 500, 600 plate appearances?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I always have some individual goals going into every single season. But beyond that, I think that my role, and I'm sure your role when you played, is more of a team type of player, coming off the bench as needed. 162 games is a long season for the guys who play every day. So to be that backup guy, I take a lot of pride in that. But I do enjoy, when I get to play every day and be on the field. It's what I love to do. It's what I've always wanted to do. And putting everything I learned together for my entire career and what's worked and running with that.
You feel like it keeps you focused moving around different spots? I felt like when I hunkered down at one spot for longer than a week, I kind of lost my edge. I liked bouncing around.
Yeah, it's definitely it's different. Infield and outfield is just totally different ball games, and there's different angles you have to take, left side, right side of the infield. So you definitely have to stay sharp. You have to stay privy to what the game is asking you to do, what the manager may do, different moves in different areas, and like I said, I've taken that over the course of my career and try to do the best with it.
Dylan, what's the vibe in the clubhouse right now? You guys have been kind of hovering around 500, but how's it feeling out in the clubhouse right now in Seattle?
It's good. We got a good group of guys. We are performing well offensively, trying to take some pressure off the pitchers. And I think that, that's kind of one of those things that over the course of a season, it kind of goes back and forth. Sometimes the pitchers pick us up, sometimes the hitters pick us up. But I like where we're at offensively. We have a pretty simple approach, just staying up the middle and trying to do damage and just do what the game's asking you to do in certain situations, not get too big. And everyone's taking that approach, and different guys are contributing each night. It's been good. The vibes are good.
I thought one of the best signs that you had in the offseason was Kevin Seitzer. coming over there. How's Sights been so far? And, what's his mentality as far as approach goes at the plate?
Sights has been great. Obviously, a great hitter in his era, so he knew, he's been there, he's done that. He brings a lot of experience to the table, and he brings a lot of simplicity. Sometimes, it's up to each player to know what he needs at the plate, whether it's a lot of driven information, or if it's just see ball, hit ball. And I think that he brings a lot of the kind of the simplicity of just see the ball in the middle of the field and drive it here, drive it this way. If it's a sinker ball, or hit it in the air. If it's a ride guy, maybe a little more of a low line drive. He just keeps it simple, and he's bringing like a very easygoing confidence to the team.
Love that.
Breakfast. What did you have for breakfast, Dylan?
What did I have for breakfast?
Yeah.
I had an omelet. I had a couple eggs over easy.
There you go.
Some toast and some berries.
He likes runny
What do you
yolk,
got?
the egg.
Omelet. What's in your omelet?
They do not.
I do.
Spinach, onions, and cheese.
Yeah,
Cheddar
not
cheese.
bad.
Super easy.
You're in the lineup playing right field as Mariners and Red Sox getting ready to play a little afternoon baseball at Fenway Park. Dylan, once again, congratulations on being named American League Player of the Week presented by Chevrolet, and thank you for the time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Take one over the monster today. Nothing cooler than going over the monster.